a strategic day trader, and this is your market wrap for July 18th, 2019. Just a couple minutes here until the markets close. Markets are going to close up. SPY 0.36%, not up much, just barely up above the yesterday's close. Same with the Qs. Okay, coming into today, we were noticing that the hourly was starting to lose the uptrend. Okay, and what we wanted to see was that if we take out this pivot here, will we get follow through? And if we get follow through, let's play the next setup or look for the next setup as a short opportunity, right? So initially this morning, it looked like, okay, we got the break, right? And we are shifting to a weaker market, right? And what we wanted to see was the follow through. So can we get another setup after that? And instead we got this strong rally. So I think it was important not to get overly bearish. That's not what we were planning to do anyway, right? Coming into today, because of the support below, because of the larger time frames remaining bullish. Okay, so the Qs now doing a daily buy setup. Our bias on the larger time frames on the Qs here remains bullish. On the smaller time frames here, we're going to be neutral though. So really not that different from yesterday. And I think it's not hard to see why, because we tried to explore lower and then we got bought right back up, but now we're back up into resistance on this hourly chart. Okay, so a bit more unclear in the next hours and days ahead, but as far as the larger time frame, we're talking days and weeks, remaining bullish. Okay, so neutral to bullish going into tomorrow. All right. Okay, let's talk about some continuation from what we talked about yesterday. Yesterday we talked about how there were good setups that were showing up during lunch, right as we went to lunch. Okay, and there were two things that I was deciding between when we got to lunch today. Okay, when we were about to break for lunch, right? One of them I called it, right? The AMAT, I put out the call that we're going to play this, and I was trying to decide whether or not to play this SON short. Okay, here's what the gap looked like on the SON, right? Gapping underneath some support. Here was the AMAT, small gap up, but showing a lot of relative strength. So that's the kind of thing that I really want to get into here, is that if we look at the Qs, as we were getting ready to break for lunch there right at 12 o'clock, what did the Qs look like? Here, okay, right here. What did the AMAT look like? Okay, here, up at the highs. So this is relative strength. So if the market bounces, if the market starts to go, I expect the AMAT to go even further, right? To that relative strength to kick in, okay? Not the other way around, like if, since the Qs are weak and this has been bullish, that this should come in. I think that's a common misconception early on, I think, for traders, that this will eventually, because it's, you know, outperforming, has to come in and it just needs to catch up to the market. I think it's important that we give the market and the participants more credit than that, that the market is not lagging or wrong. This is bullish for a reason. So that's why the AMAT was called. So we had this nice base up here at the highs, right? So it was called over 47.90, right? And stop goes here. Actually, we use this a little bit tighter here, under 69, okay, on the AMAT. It was eventually managed with half out there, and then a quarter out as it ran up. And then I think the last piece came out in here. So we weren't there for those last new highs. The last piece came out under 45. Yeah, okay. And the plan was to hold this as long as we could, just using the hourly here. But then it got to the point when this was up at 45 where our stop was was almost 50 cents below. So it was kind of a lot to give back, so I didn't want to. So let that come all the way back in. So we did trail kind of around 3 Rs on that final piece. Okay, so let's go through the same discussion here with the SON, right? As the Qs were at the lows, here we can even use the SPY this time as the example as we're coming into lunch here. SPY here down at the lows, and the SON kind of hanging out sideways, right? It did come in a bit, but basing, right? And so what is the more likely scenario when the SPY has gone multiple bars down into new lows, right? Is that we're due for a bounce. How much of a bounce, right? I think was not easy to say. I definitely didn't think the market would rally as much as it did. I think part of that was there was some news out that kind of encouraged the market that there won't be further interest rate hikes. But either way, we knew that the odds that we get some kind of bounce would be better, and therefore relative strength would be better. Does that make sense? Okay, so hopefully, that idea of market timing, of timing your plays to go with what the market is doing, can be very, very powerful, right? So something like this, I think the SON, the numbers that I had put out didn't trigger anyway, so this wouldn't even have been a loss or anything like that. It didn't break 80. I think it kind of got there and kind of paused wherever it got to. It was probably right here then. Yeah, to 80. So it was under 80. Never would have paused. But what did this want to do? It ended up rallying instead, right? Not much. It's not the kind of thing I would play long either. But right, I thought there was a clear distinction between the relative strength that the AMAT was showing and kind of what the SON was doing, right? So between these two, that's why I wanted to pick the AMAT, because the AMAT was basing up here at the highs. Now, there were a lot to choose from, too. It wasn't just that one. You might have even done better if you'd gone with the KLAC, right? KLC also. But you can see the same attribute. I know the same sector, but the same attributes here showing a lot of strength. And then as the Qs and SPYs rally, right, these really continue the move, right? So that is the concept behind relative strength. And then also timing the market as the market makes new lows, right? What we don't want to be doing is chasing, right? We're anticipating, right? We're trying to speculate on what is in our favor as far as odds go for the next move, right? It just so happened that this rally. Now, there will be some, basing at the highs that they don't follow through market rallies and it goes without them, right? That's why it's important. We also want to have, right, as many other time frames looking bullish, right? So that time frame alignment. So whether someone's a swing trader and they see this weekly and they think, oh yeah, this weekly can go higher. They see that this monthly here is transitioning back up, right, looking higher as well, or just seeing that this daily or that this intraday is basing up here at the highs ready for a breakout, right? All of that is going to result and feed kind of the move that this is going to make, okay? So moving forward, we'll see if the market continues to be a big factor. So far, we've had some pretty narrow range days, and that's fine, especially as we're in earnings season. We want to see kind of what's moving, what's on its own page. All right. So going into tomorrow, just to recap the market here, we're going to be bullish on the long term and then neutral on the short term. The hourly has rallied back to resistance here. So we'll see what happens. If we kind of try to move lower in the morning and then get back above today's high, we'll be looking for a bullish setup to continue the short-term bullish bias. That will be lined up with the long-term bullish bias. So we'll be all out bullish if we fail on this sell setup, okay? But for now, we'll be neutral. We'll see if we come in tomorrow. If we get back to these lows and say we base at it and break down, that would give us a good place to initiate a bearish bias, okay? If we come back to retest these lows, right, even before we break it, I think it's fine to initiate a bearish bias. In order for us to get a bullish bias, we'd have to see the selling take place and then the bulls take control, and then we can initiate the bullish bias, okay? So we're going into tomorrow going to be neutral because we did rally up into some resistance here after kind of breaking the hourly uptrend, okay? All right, so we'll see what we get tomorrow, all right, to finish out the week here. And then we'll be done with our first week of earnings, right? And then there'll be plenty more to come. All right, so hope you did well today. If not, we'll be back at it tomorrow, and I will talk to you then. All right, have a good evening.